Welcome to the Bright Ideas Podcast, where we share bold insights and real stories for people leaders building cultures and companies that scale. I'm your host, Desiree B. Sharpe, keynote speaker and CEO of Color Vision Lab. We're the people and culture consulting firm helping creative businesses design smarter systems and build high-performing teams. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Leslie Youngblood, founder and CEO at Youngblood MMC. If you want to scale your business without sacrificing your culture, this conversation is for you. And if you're exploring ways to elevate your people strategy, DM us the word growth on LinkedIn for a free consultation. Leslie, welcome to the Bright Ideas Podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Desiree. I'm so excited to be here and talk with you.
Yes, me too. This conversation has been long awaited, and I'm excited to dive in. So first, I would love for you to share a little bit more about your agency, Youngblood MMC. What do you focus on? What services do you deliver? And who do you serve?
Sure. So Youngblood MMC, the MMC stands for Marketing, Media, and Content. So we provide those services primarily to B2B business clients, as well as clients in the hospitality and commercial real estate space. So we are all about delivering comprehensive growth to drive real results. And our specialty really is when there's marketing mayhem. We come in and we fix it and we help those businesses scale confidently.
Leslie, something that I thought was really impressive about your background is just how eclectic and diverse it is. You have such rich experience from New York advertising and fashion reporting. You've done chamber work. You're now an entrepreneur running your own agency, and you have a podcast. So looking back on all those experiences, what has shaped your leadership style the most?
That's such a great question. I do have such when you look at my resume and my background, it really is nutty to me, most of all, because I was very fortunate to find advertising and marketing early on as going into my freshman year of college at Michigan State. Go Green. I thought that I would specialize in major in English. I always loved to read. I always loved to write. I was always creative as a kid. My siblings and my cousin and I, we had like a magazine that we'd make. We would do radio shows. But, back in growing up in the 80s and 90s, the world wasn't as connected as it is today. You didn't know that you could go into advertising. We didn't have Mad Men back then, right? We didn't have half the things. And so when I was going into school and I discovered this world of creativity that you could get paid for and work with fun people, it all clicked. And so really, that's the true through line through all of those various backgrounds of mine, whether it's going backstage at New York Fashion Week when I lived in New York, or doing men's fashions and kids advertising and marketing in New York City, to working with small business owners and entrepreneurs to help them grow and thrive here in Detroit, to doing my own thing. It's all the thing that really drives me and thrills me is that creative work, is coming up with ideas and bringing them to life as a group to help businesses grow and people grow and thrive. And so I really think as a leader, one thing I've always brought is my energy and that passion that is very evident in all that I do. And it's such a gift, but it's also a gift that I've had to learn to navigate along the way. You can't give all of yourself to your job or to your team, because especially as a mother and a wife now and in my later years, I had to have myself to give to them at home too. So it was really been a fantastic journey, and something, with that as well as being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, that can be long hours. So where do you draw the line with the boundaries for yourself and your gifts so your business thrives, but also your professional life thrives?
Leslie, that really is such a great segue into my next question. Speaking about, burnout and boundary setting, you've described moments in previous conversations that we've had of burnout and toxic environments that you've worked in, which, I've had plenty as well. I think a lot of us entrepreneurs have had experiences that have pushed us into starting our own things. But when you reflect back on your career journey, can you take us back to one of those turning points, maybe an aha moment or an experience that was, really defining for you that, made you say, look, I have to set stronger boundaries around my work and career?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, right off the top of my head, it was my last professional job that I loved so much, that I was so successful in, doing all the things, but I was working minimum 80 plus hours a week. I was up at 6 in the morning. Usually I would, previously I would get up and I would work out and go get the kids ready for school, but I was getting up at 6 and I was working before getting the kids to school. And then at night, 10:30 at night, answering texts, checking emails throughout the weekend. And I like I say, like, what a gift. I loved it. It was so great. It wasn't weird to me. I felt like this is what you have to do. This is what's involved, right? That's on me for not putting better boundaries in place, right? Like, I feel like I also reflect upon that time and have to take responsibility for not setting better boundaries and for letting people know, yes, you can call on me at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday and I will answer when I shouldn't do that. But it was, it was a lot of time given to work. And I have 3 kids and I have a husband and I have a life. And I was on a family vacation and I brought my laptop and I hid it from my husband. He didn't even know. Like, maybe he knew. I should probably ask him, but like, I hid my laptop and I would work like in secret while the kids were playing on the lake. And I would still, work and I would be answering questions and putting out fires. There was a fight between two grown men that I had to navigate and like put out while I was on this family vacation when I'm watching my kids play on the lake. And I was, and that's when I was kind of like, what? Like, this isn't normal. Maybe it's normal and maybe it's okay for some people, but inside it was like, this is like my spirit and was pinging like, this doesn't feel right. And, it was on that trip too, where I realized like my life had become a movie, a horror movie that I created. It was my own doing. And I was giving all of myself and all of my gifts. And like, what a joy, right? Like I always say, like I would bleed out and give every last drop of like my blood to like this job. And then they would move on to the next person because I'd be dead. And and they would still need somebody. And I realized, I feel like we're so quick to say shame on that company, but I was like, shame on me for letting them do that. And I realized I was in a cage, kind of screaming like, I'm in a cage. I'm so upset. And it was like, well, there's no lock on the cage. You can walk right out of this cage. And it really, truly, like I literally felt like shook, like in that moment, like a switch flipped. And my husband like looked at me and he was like, uh-oh. Uh-oh, she's got that crazy look in her eye. And I'm like, I just feel like the lights came on. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I have to make a better choice. I have to create the movie of my life and this reality that I want to see because I created this and I don't like it. And I have the power to change it. And that's when I knew that I would be leaving that position, but I didn't know what was next. But it was truly in that moment. And I feel like that was so powerful. And that, and I'm sure anybody listening that's gone through that, once you see that, once you feel that inherently, there's no going back on it. And I just knew that the time had come to make a change.
Oh, I love that story so much. And I can resonate with a lot of what you shared. I would imagine it's harder when you actually really love your job and you love your work and it's creating this strain on your personal life and your family life. It makes me think of an earlier career or earlier job that I had when I worked in news PR right around the 2016 presidential election. And uh, I actually did not like that job. I enjoyed the prestige of the job. I learned a lot. I was very young and green, but I would get to work before the sun came up. By the time I had left, the sun was already down. I was working insane hours. On the night of the election, I slept
Mm,
at the office. And I
of
was
course
like,
you did.
is this a thing? Like, is this normal?
Yeah.
And it makes me think about, that gut check that you talked about when you have to think to yourself, this is not sustainable. This is not
Mhm.
what I want, and I have to do something about it. And I think it takes a lot to be able to, one, realize that, have the self-awareness to realize that something's wrong, and have the gumption to pursue something that's more aligned with where you want to take your life. And so that
Mhm.
makes me kind of even think about the season just being in business and how it's so easy to build a business that, to your point, cages you in. You leave one job and then could go into a business that doesn't honor the boundaries you wanted to set for yourself by leaving that past job. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I would love for you to share a little bit more about how you were able to build a company that fits into your life and not the other way around, where so many people try to fit their lives into the structure of the business. What does that look like for
Mhm.
you?
Yes, this is a topic that I think is so important for us to talk about, especially as women, because the modern workplace was not created for women's lives to be mothers, to be, emotional caretakers of families, to have to leave and then commute and do all the things. And so, the structure that we have is not built for us. And so it's no wonder that it's been a struggle for women in the workplace. And I do think, for as horrible as the pandemic was, when we all went remote and so many businesses, companies, leaders, professionals realized, oh, I can get this done from my house or from a cafe and we can still be successful. I can still be a leader. And I think it really, again, like shifted people's mindsets about what work could look like. And so as a business owner, you do have the freedom to create your day around your schedule. When I left that position, it also, what a privilege. I'm like, what position of privilege that I could walk away from something. I did not have a plan. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't leave that position thinking I'm going to start a business. I left that position being like, I am burnt to a crisp. I don't know what's next. But I'm so fortunate that I can walk away from this and have time to figure it out. My husband and I had to make adjustments, of course, but what a gift to be able to do that. I know so many people don't have that, and you have to stay in a position that is making you miserable and isn't sustainable until you can unchain yourself from it. So I left that position, and on the final day of that position, I got an email from somebody, a friend of mine who I'd done freelance work for previously a few years back, asking me if I had bandwidth for a new project, and that was going to replace about like 3/4 of my income, like right there. And I was like, oh my God, I guess I'm just going to be a business. I guess I'm going to do it. I guess I'm going to be a business owner. And then within 2 weeks from there, another family member was like, hey, I need help with this branding and marketing project. Can you help me? And I was like, yep, let's do it. And it kind of snowballed from there. I did interview for maybe one position, but I just was so gun shy on, going back into the traditional world. And I was like, well, listen, I have this momentum. Why not give it a go? I have the connections. I have the experience. And if not now, when? I can always go and get a job. I can always apply for jobs, but this momentum is with me now. Let's focus on this. Let's build this. Especially, I can work from home. I can drop my kids off. I can pick them up. I can, sick days with kids. We never know when those are coming. And I'm guilty, by trying to get it, work what I can, but you really are the creator of your own schedule in your own life. And it truly is such a gift. And so I think we all need to kind of push back on the traditional 9 to 5 and the norms that we experience in that world. And I think we're getting there. I think the communication and the conversations are being had, and those are more open to being had. But until you go to your, direct report or your superior and say, I need something that's better for me, nothing's going to change. And so finding your voice and advocating for yourself, whether you are a business owner or whether you're an employee is just so key.
Such valuable advice for any professional woman who, whether you're in business, if you're working a full-time job, really being an advocate for yourself in your work, in your boundaries, and the space you want to create is so important. You can't rely on other people to do that for you, although it's nice when you get those
Mhm.
sponsors and
Mm.
advocates, to
Yeah.
do that for you. But
Mhm.
you have to
Mhm.
be your biggest champion and the first voice to speak up for yourself. I've
Mhm.
spoken in the past about the reality of the gender parity gap or gender gap, right? Pay
Mhm.
gap.
Mhm.
And that parity is still 134 years away, which is mind
Mhm.
blowing. Why do you
Mhm.
believe that entrepreneurship is such a powerful path for women to accelerate pay equity?
Yes. This is something when I heard this, like, blew my mind. 134 years still. It's just bananas. I feel like when you are a business owner, when you are an entrepreneur, you have the ability to compound your wealth much faster than working for a corporate situation that we know that we don't have in the budget for raises this year, or we didn't hit our goals this year, and so you don't get that bonus. Or and listen, like, there is a path to wealth through that too, with your 401k, with investing. Like, I completely believe we should all be proactive, whether we're in the corporate space or business owners. But I feel like the more women that understand that business and those people at the top making the decisions, like, they're not smarter than you, they're not more accomplished than you are just as capable, just as smart, and you can go out and start your own business. Instead of getting those people rich, you can make yourself rich. Yeah, that company that can't afford to give you a raise that brought in $50 million this year, you're telling me they can't give you a $5,000 bump in your raise? Like, get out of here. Go out and start build a six-figure business plus on your own, because you are totally capable, you are totally smart, and the world needs what you have to give, right? And then you have a direct, and not only that, are you building your wealth through that, but then you're also seeing your impact more specifically. And that is so rewarding too, as well. And so I just feel like there's so many positives to this. Now, are there people that should everybody be an entrepreneur or small business owner? No, it's not for the faint of heart. It's hard, and I knew it was hard working with small business owners and entrepreneurs, but even getting in the mix and actually doing it, you're like, "Oh god, yeah, this sucks. This is hard." It is so much easier, to potentially go and know you have a paycheck at the end of the month, and you're investing in your 401k, right? But there is so much reward there for you if you are willing to live in that discomfort. And not only that, but then being a small business owner and entrepreneur forces you to get real with your finances and forces you to learn more of, like, the finance aspect and the game of business, because it is such a game, like, and you hear all these politicians and companies didn't pay any in taxes. Well, how the heck can that be? Because it's a game, Desiree. And so you start to learn the game, and then you start to get smarter about it, and become a player in the game instead of allowing the game to happen to you.
Woo, you are spitting fire today, Leslie. My goodness. You touched on so many things that I would love to dive deeper into, but oh my gosh, like you being judicious with your finances is such a critical lesson that many entrepreneurs struggle with. And then I'm even thinking about the knowledge and access gap. You talked
Mm,
about, like, how are these prominent politicians and wealthy people avoiding taxes while the lower and middle class are getting hit harder than anyone. And it
mhm,
reminds me, it's an access, it's
mhm,
a knowledge and information gap. And my husband
mhm.
and I talk about this all the time. It's like, you really have to get in the room with the right people to learn the things that
Yes.
you can't read in a book, or that you can't
Mhm,
go to school and learn. Just thinking about kind of the privilege and nepotism that comes with
mhm,
having a
mm,
father or a mother who is a successful executive at a corporation, the types of conversations that happen at those dinner tables, as opposed to someone who might have been raised by a blue collar worker who never earned more than
mhm,
45 grand a year, that's kind of my background. I had to learn a lot by just getting out there, trying and failing. And entrepreneurship it has been the greatest ministry of my life, with many highs and many lows. And this year has been a pretty tumultuous year because of the state of the economy. But last year, we were blessed to be able to get married, have a honeymoon in Bali, buy a house, and have a kid in 1 year. And I would not have been able to do that without my company, without my business.
right,
So to your
sure.
point, building a company, a profitable, impactful business is a huge accelerator, wealth accelerator for women. And I love that you emphasize that point. So thank you so much for
Mhm.
sharing that.
Yeah, for sure. There's, like, one story too that really quickly comes to mind that shifted my brain chemistry about this, with a former boss of mine who I learned so much from. But we were I think, it was just like wasn't like a meeting or anything, but we had all gathered around and he was talking about he went to law school and he was in charge of pleading the case or being in charge of like the final project, which was a case. And at the end, he did such a good job that he was approached by a big law firm and they're like, we want to hire you. We'll pay you $150,000. And anybody like fresh out of law school, your young 20s, like 150 grand, like straight up. Like I feel like most people would be like, wow, yeah, let's shake the hand. Let's ink this deal. And he was like, no, only 150. Like I can make 10 times more that on my own. And I was like, oh my God, that's so like,
Wow.
huh. And he had the audacity and the wherewithal to be like, thanks, but I have power. Like, I don't need I don't need you. I can make it more on my own. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I truly think about that a couple times a week because there's so many factors that go into being successful after that. You can't just sit and be like, well, I'm going to make $1 million and, not lawyer up or not do all the things. But like it is possible for anybody out there, like truly.
It is. I love that story as well. And it makes me think about, I don't know, going back to just being an entrepreneurial woman in business. When we get to the point in our lives where we want to start families while also trying to salvage a meaningful, or to your point, have the audacity to pursue a meaningful career. Oh my goodness, that's a whole different ministry there. Like
Mm-hmm.
my baby is only eight months, and I talk very transparently about how, man, I had a full-on identity crisis when I had my daughter. I mean, I love her. She is my joy. She has been the greatest addition to my husband and I's life. But it took a lot for me to learn how to be a mom while also being a
Mm.
business leader and loving my
Yep.
work. And you
Yes.
are a podcaster, a business owner, a mother of three. I have one, and I'm like sweating every day, exhausted.
I never stopped sweating, Desiree. No.
So I'm trying to figure out, how do you do it? Like, is it because you have a supportive partner? Is it because maybe the kids are a
Yes.
little older, or a combination?
Hmm.
How do you navigate this season where you have a lot going on at once?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I think, because, I'm sure you'll resonate because I can't be any other way. And I've thought about this and I've said to my husband before, who is a fantastically supportive partner. And I am so lucky and blessed and fortunate, but I'm also like, but I picked him. Because I did, right? I knew you'd be good, right? Like I didn't pick somebody that wouldn't be supportive, but he is so incredible in so many ways, and we balance each other out and we pick up the pace or what needs to be done together. Not that it's easy. It's never easy, right? So that is of course key, having a partner that supports you. And I've said to him before, like, I'm sorry, I wish I could just be somebody that stays at a job for their whole life and you don't have to worry about it. And I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, why am I like this? But I also feel like that's probably one of the things that he loves about me the most is that, each of us is inherently unique, right? And we are connected in a unique way as well. And so when your babies are small, and I think about this too, where I don't think I would be where I'm at today as a business owner or professional if I hadn't had my kids. And I mean that in a positive way, where I don't think I would have been proactive or inspired to do some of the things that I have done and the choices that I've made if I had not had my kids. And when your kids are little and your beautiful daughter is still 8 months old, my goodness, like you're not even yourself yet, right? Like after that. And I wish I'd given myself more grace because I remember having my babies after everyone be like, oh, I have to immediately get back in shape. Oh, I have to immediately be proactive at work, and you don't. You are exactly where you need to be, and you need to enjoy that time with a beautiful baby. They're just the best. It's the best because then they grow up and get sassy, which is still hilarious and fun. But there's never an easy answer, and I just feel like I've always been in gut oriented, gut action oriented, and done things that I'm like, well, now I need to move to New York City, and well, yeah, and now we're going to get married and it's going to be great, and been true to myself in that regard. So I feel like being true to yourself, any woman listening now, whether it's having kids or not having kids, whether it's, going back to work after having a baby or not going back after, but also give yourself grace in that time because it is so important and you will end up exactly where you're supposed to be. And I feel like my brain after having my kids and coming back to myself because there's that transitory period is like extra like fired up all the time. And there's something about going through that and changing and evolving as a human has benefited me in endless ways, especially in how I'm committed to my work and wanting to show my kids that you can have a mom who loves you to the moon and beyond and love her work and be inspired by that. I love being able to share that with them as well.
Wow, that is an incredible reminder to me, and then to any other woman who might have just needed, a tap on the shoulder, a hug, or just, warm words telling them that they're doing their best. It's okay to just surrender to the season that you're
Yes.
in. That is something I have struggled with this year, and I'm in a place right now where I feel like I'm fully surrendered. I've let go.
Mm.
I've allowed God to just come in and do whatever he wants to do with me in this season and help me to be a good mom and wife and a good me in the process. But it was not easy. You're really shedding an old version of yourself. And I don't think we talk enough about the grief that comes with that,
Mm.
especially
Mhm.
for me. I started out my entrepreneurial career at 26. I was
Mm.
fiery and ambitious, and I would stay up all night and run with all my crazy, weird ideas, and I thrived on it. It was my purpose at that time. But now my family is my purpose. My daughter is my purpose. And so I just have so much respect for women and women who birth babies and go through that process of your hormones being all
Mm.
over the place. Um,
Mhm.
it does get better, and I believe that now because it has, and I know that it will
Yes.
continue to get better. So I thank you for
Yes.
sharing that.
Yes. Of course, we could talk about that so much more, right? But like and I feel like too, it is such a grieving process because you look back at that old version of you and you're like, I loved her. She was so fun. She was amazing. I miss her. But it doesn't mean that where you're at and who you are now is worse than it's just a different version of you. And I would hate to stay the same my whole life. Too, I'm always like, man, wouldn't that be a horrible thing if you were that same person your entire life? What a gift to be able to change. It's not easy. It's not comfortable, right? But it's natural like thing and it's awesome. But upon reflection, when you're in it, it's not awesome or it's like
Yeah.
a struggle, right? It's surrender, like you said, Desiree. It's so hard. It's so hard, but it's okay. And it, like you said, it gets better.
Mm, yes. Clearly you're called to, be a voice for women, to be a positive, just a beacon of light to women who are finding their way in all the different seasons of life. And, I'm sure that some of that inspired you to start your podcast, Serious Lady
Mhm.
Business. And so I would like to hear a little bit more about the platform. Why did you start your podcast? What do you talk about on your podcast? And, what are you hoping that women will take away from those conversations?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I started Serious Lady Business because I felt like out of all the incredible podcasts, business focused podcasts out there, there were still conversations not being had about being a female business owner, entrepreneur, and professional today. And especially when it came to the gender pay parity, I was like, that is crazy, right? And then when I realized after meeting, starting my business and meeting with my tax accountant and realizing it's just a game. This is just one giant game. And I'm like, everybody needs to know the game. No gatekeeping here. Like every woman needs to know this so she can be empowered, so she can advocate for herself at work, in her business, and know that like it's okay and she's got this. Because you see these people, right? So like on magazines, at least that was like, something that I went through where you work with these people that are considered these most powerful and they're on magazines and quoted in articles and driving these really fancy expensive cars and you're like, wow, they must know something that I don't. They've got it figured out. And after working with people like that, I was like, they are not any smarter or any kinder or any funnier or any of the things than you and me and anybody else out there that aspires to those types of things. And so I wanted, through Serious Lady Business, to share that and for all of us to come together and share those other like key things and learning so we can reach gender pay parity faster than that 130 plus years, so we can understand that any struggle, difficulty, frustration in our business is okay and others have gone through it and here's how, because we're stronger together. And I feel like we need it now more than ever before, in the times that we are in. And we are our best advocates, and women have just magical energy together. And I think that harnessing that is, one of the missions of Serious Lady Business too, to have those conversations, to harness our power so we can all go further together.
Incredible. That's a very powerful mission and much needed. Definitely believe that there's a gap in the podcast world and the content creation world around that. So Leslie, what are you focused on for the next quarter? So, any special initiatives or metrics you're looking to improve in your business? What are you hyper focusing on?
Yeah, that is a great question, Desiree. I've been thinking about this, right? Because I'm like, holy smokes, what am I doing? What do I want to achieve? What do I want to be doing in 2026 and beyond? And as always, which I'm sure you can relate to, and a lot of our listeners can relate to, I have a lot of things going on, which I also find is a wonderful thing, but I'm also like, okay, I have to get focused. And so I've really been trying to figure out of all these things that I have ideas and potentials in my mind, what should I be focusing on? What's going to be the biggest and best driver forward? So when it comes to Youngblood MMC, we're really looking to continue to deliver the value and the results to our current clients. We work with fantastic clients that we, have great relationships with. So how do we continue to deliver exceptional service and results? And then how do we, moving forward into 2026 and beyond, improve upon what we've been able to achieve with them? Now is that time where we're looking at this year, projecting, seeing where our projections line up for what we look to do, and then how do we adjust looking forward into 2026. When it comes to Serious Lady Business, we launched in the end of March, and I can't see stopping doing it. We haven't necessarily done a season of episodes, but we're going to be recording and sharing incredible stories through the holidays. And then it's also going to be, right now we're figuring out, where does Serious Lady Business go next? How do we best serve? How do we make the best impact? How are we, delivering upon our mission looking forward and seeing, what we were able to achieve this year? What's been working, what's not? How do we iterate on it moving forward for the maximum impact? And, really just continuing to have fun. I think that's part of like the biggest thing too. It's like we said, this whole conversation, it's not easy. There's difficulties. We lost, how many clients did we lose this year? We lost, one client, and then only one client, which we had a great relationship with, that decided not to continue. They were making some changes in their business. And then we had also gone up for a really big project that we didn't get. And so we've been learning this year, right? Like, could we have done better in keeping that client? What did we miss? What could we have done better in that presentation where we were the top 2 out of 400 that we didn't get it? How do we ensure that doesn't happen again? So how do we look to improve ourselves moving forward for continued success? But again, like having that fun, because in those moments of despair and difficulty, when you lose a client, when you don't get the project that you could have hired 5 more people for your team, for the next year, right? And that's a big bummer and you have to adjust. How do you find the fun and the joy of it? Because it's not going to be roses every single day. In fact, roses can be hard to come by when you're a business owner, but to know that it's worth it and you are looking to make an impact. Like, that's really truly what I keep coming back to, finishing out the year and looking ahead. How do I best make an impact? How do I improve others' lives? How do I share this message and this, this feeling of community? And whether it's women business, like marketing, advertising, creativity, like joy, again, like I do feel like we need it more than ever. And it's a serious time in the world every day. And, to have be able to lift up and bring us together and to drive forward towards real good, lasting change is something that I think about constantly every day.
Wow. Leslie, I have loved this conversation so
Me
much.
too.
It was the conversation I didn't know I needed today, but
Oh,
thank
I'm
you
so
so
glad to
much.
hear that.
Yes,
Yep.
and I really hope that it resonates with the right people and meet them where they are at the right time. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your authentic stories, and being a guest on Bright Ideas. I like to wrap up all of my conversations by asking my guests to leave us with their one bright idea. A bright idea can be a mindset shift, a tool, a strategy, something that's made a big difference for you or your business. What would that one thing be?
I think that bright idea would be that to remember, even in those darkest, hardest moments, it's a game. One, you can learn to play by the rules, or you can make your own rules and make your own game. And I think that's also too why we are having this conversation, Desiree, and why we're seeing so much discord in the world. We're changing the rules right now because the game that everyone's been playing all this time isn't working. And so just remember that it's a game and you got this. You have the power. You have everything inside you right this minute. You don't need to go out there and search for money or a course or anything. Like, you are inherently powerful and you have the ability to make the game work for you.
Amazing. Leslie, I'm sure there's going to be people who are listening to this podcast who want to learn more about you and Youngblood MMC. We'll, of course, include your website URL in the show notes. But if you want to drop your socials or any special links in terms of where people can contact you, feel free.
Perfect. Yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Leslie Youngblood on LinkedIn. You can find me there. You can follow Youngblood MMC and Serious Lady Business on LinkedIn as well. Youngbloodmmc.com is our website for more about our marketing, media, and content services. And you can visit SeriousLadyBusiness.com for more on the podcast, including where to follow us on socials.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on Bright Ideas,
Thank
Leslie.
you
I've
so
loved
much.
having you.
It's so enjoyed being here, Desiree. Thank you so much. I appreciate it and all that you do.
Thanks for tuning in to Bright Ideas. If today's episode gave you something to think about, here's your next step. DM me the word growth on LinkedIn to start a conversation about how we can help you scale smarter. And if you're a founder, CEO, or senior talent leader with a story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out about joining me on a future episode. And if you don't want to miss future conversations, be sure to follow the show, leave a quick rating, and download your favorite episodes to take them on the go. Your support helps more leaders discover bright ideas. Until next time, be bold, be resilient, be sharp. I'm Desiree B. Sharpe.